I love that in your practice you think holistically, right? You're not like immediately like, okay, we got to open you up. Like,
Right.
Let's think about what we can do.
Discogenic pain has a psychological component. Everything is part anatomy, which is the disc shock absorber, part physiology, which is hormones, muscle mass, cortisol levels, etc., and part psychology. And we've ignored this three-pronged approach to spinal care. If you came into my office, if you said, I can't lift my children, and it's really affecting me, my relationship is different with my wife, and it's just not, my life is not the same anymore. I would also say, what are you doing for your mental health care? Exercise definitely helps. Nutritional supplements can help. Sleep quality definitely helps. And also pain control. So what do you do for your pain? Do you have a regimen? Is it all medications, or is it breath work, cold plunge, other means of treating pain? And also insight into psychological pain. One of the things that we need to do is just promote that more and more and more, so more people will realize the benefits of it.
An entrepreneur straight out of New York City, Michael Chernow. What's cracking?
So you're a board certified neurosurgeon. You are like chief of surgery at the hospital that you practice at. You are considered one of the greatest spinal surgeons in the country.
Appreciate that.
And you're also an entrepreneur, right? You've got a really cool business that, like, one of the first things you shared with me, this new brand that you've launched, Axon. You see a lot. You also are like one of the foremost surgeons on disc replacement, which I really want to learn about that, because God, would I love a disc replacement in my L4, L5, potentially L5, S1, and L3, L4. But I know that, like, just give us a little bio just so everybody can get to know you first.
Sure. It's truly a privilege to be here, by the way. Great connecting. I'm a board certified neurosurgeon. I practice in Santa Monica, California, and my day job is neurosurgery of the spine. And I would say, at the top of my skill set is artificial disc replacement of the spine in the neck and the back. But I do it all. We do tumors, we do malformations, we do deformities of the spine. So I have a very robust and busy clinical practice. And my passion since the very early days, because spinal pain is associated with chronic pain and addiction and trauma and a bunch of other related things. So my passion has become brain health as it relates to spine health and as it relates to the wellness of my patients. So because of that, these side projects started, like the Neurovella Brain Spa, the supplements, and that's been the entrepreneurship angle. So when I saw you guys come up with a energy bar, I've been looking at things to recommend to my patients and morning routines, et cetera. I was like, oh, what a fantastic coincidence, because I've been looking into this for some time.
Amazing.
And me and my partner look at peptides and look at the degree of evidence. Like creatine is very exciting. Its cognitive effects are exciting, as well as its effects on muscular health. So really a very exciting chapter. I'm blessed to do what I do on a daily basis. And I would say artificial disc replacement is something we do extremely well. So not to worry, I got you. and it's been a godsend, because in the past, we used to only have to fuse the spine when a disc becomes extremely painful. And we still have to do it when it's like 10-level disease. But in isolated cases, we either mix and match artificial discs with a fusion called hybrid arthroplasty that we're very excited about, because we got great research behind it now, as well as just one or two single or double level disc replacements in the neck and the back.
So I've listened to a couple of podcasts that you've been on, and in doing my research, something that you said, I don't remember which podcast it was, but something that you said was really interesting. You're a science-based human, right? Like, you're a surgeon, you're board certified. The work that you perform is essentially science supported, right? However, the outcomes are not 100%, right? Like
Indeed.
there could be things. Not everybody is going to heal the same way. Is it an individual's characteristic or character that ultimately dictates how someone heals from a back surgery? Is it an individual's character that is going to make somebody eligible potentially for a back surgery based on, you know, their size and shape and the way they walk through the world? Like, I'll give you a quick story for me. I was 30 years old. I was a competitive athlete and a dad, or not a dad yet, a husband and a restaurateur in New York City. At 30 years old, I had 4 restaurants, and I was just like, my life was insane, and I was ready to take it all on. And I was rolling jiu-jitsu, and this massive guy essentially folded my body in half. Everybody in the gym heard the sound. It was audible, like that.
We hate that sound.
What?
We doctors hate that sound.
Oh gosh. And I had never had back issues before. So I heard the sound. It wasn't like incredibly painful, but my whole entire back essentially like seized immediately. Like my glutes seized up, and I was like, oh my God, I'm having the worst like muscle spasm of my life. And it took me a while to be able to, it wasn't like piercing pain. It was like my, like squeezing. Finally it let up, and I kind of like walked off a little bit. The next morning, I was done. I was completely...
Couldn't get out of bed.
Oh, I not only could I not get out of bed, I was in the most severe pain shooting down my right leg. Like...
Yeah, that's pretty classic.
Devastating. And so I didn't know what to do. You know, we went to the hospital, got MRI. In the MRI, the disc had ruptured. They saw a fragment of disc sitting right on top of my sciatic nerve, and they basically were like, we have to open you. Like, that disc is not going to degenerate. It is not going to fall away. And if it does, the chance of it falling into your spinal column could be really bad for you. So we're gonna have to open your back up and remove this piece of disc. And I just refused. I was like, I'm gonna have to go see someone else. Like, I'm too young, you know, because I had heard stories, right? Like,
incredible story.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And so I went to go see a few different guys in New York, and they basically all said the same thing. We have to take this thing out.
Right.
I love that you think in your practice, you think holistically, right? You're not like immediately like, okay, we got to open you up. Like, let's think about what we can do. And I heard that in your story on other podcasts. And I want to talk about those other things that you suggest to your patients if you don't think it's absolutely necessary to get surgery. But I did a couple of different things that I was in excruciating pain for 8 weeks. I could not stand up past 45 degrees. And finally I got to a place where I felt like I could go back in and just beg for a cortisone shot, because they were like, we're not giving you a cortisone shot. It doesn't, like, it's not going, the disc is, the fragment's on the nerve. Like, it's not going to change.
Right.
I found an anesthesiologist who would give me a cortisone shot. I got a cortisone shot, and my pain just went away.
Amazing.
And it creeps up on me every now and again.
Yeah.
If you look at my MRI, it does not look good.
I can't wait.
Yeah, like it looks bad. And another thing that you said on the podcast or what podcast is like, the MRI doesn't necessarily tell the story, you know? And so I want to I want to ask you about trauma.
Yep.
And the spine.
I mean, your example is so perfect because it shows the variability of presentation, decision making, which decision tree are you going to take, and outcome. And you're here, and you haven't had surgery, and you had an injection. So, and disc biology and disc pathophysiology, if you will, is very complicated. The disc is actually a dead jelly. It doesn't have any major, blood vessels. The side of it has some innervation, but basically your jelly material was sitting on this nerve.
What is it? What is disc?
It's a proteoglycan, so it's basically a protein basket. which inside it has a soft jelly called nucleus pulposus. Literally feels like soft, like shrimp or something like that. If you had to, go with the consistency of it.
And you see them all the time.
Yeah, that's my job.
Right. And
My job
healthy
is to-
ones and unhealthy ones.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes we have like no disc when we're trying to replace a disc because disc has already been digested by the body. Sometimes there's even only air in the disc. The only thing that remains is a little air bubble in the disc. There's no disc because it all herniated out and it got degenerated and worn out over time. So I can't wait to look at your MRI and give you there's grades of degeneration from 1 to 4.
Should we just do it right now?
Sure.
We should just do it right now.
Absolutely.
Because we're on the topic.
Let's do an MRI consult.
And I think,
That's perfect. So basically, depending on whether that extruded fragment that was sitting on your nerve separated from the mother disc, sometimes it dictates how quickly your body can chop it up and let it go. Oh, this is perfect. We should zoom in on this if we can, but we can do it later. But you have a sorry, bring it back. You have a L4-5 disc that's completely degenerated, and the other discs are now feeling the heat a little bit. But your L4-5 is the problem. It's got a bulge, it's almost hitting the nerve still. This is a very typical case of what we
would operate on.
Well, if you're miserable,
right?
Like you can't sit, you can't drive. You just did a 1 or 2 hour drive. So you tell me, it's all based on your symptoms. It's not based on this picture.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
And I will share one thing that has sort of like changed my symptoms for my low back. I love training. I train my ass off. I thought that there was like one way that I needed to train when it came to strength and weights, and I thought it was heavy. Like that's what I thought. I was like, okay, heavy is what I got to do. Everybody says the deadlift is like one of the greatest lifts of all time. You got to do heavy deadlifts, heavy squat. Once I removed heavy deadlift and heavy squat, now that doesn't mean that I don't do RDLs and dumbbell RDLs where I'm really stretching out my hams and my glutes, and like I still do a hinge movement, but as soon as I got rid of heavy deadlifts, conventional heavy deadlifts and heavy squats, my back pain has been gone. It's gone.
That's very smart. I mean, that's one of the things you recommend is lower weight, more sustainable red fiber training as opposed to big muscle white fiber training, but you need both. I mean, we know strength training is extremely important for spinal health, and someone like you, the bottom line is you don't have to be miserable. You don't have to be in pain for the rest of your life. If you're hitting, a week where you only have a minor ache one day out of the week, I would not recommend surgery.
Right.
If you're having a week where you can't drive, you can't lift your children, your workouts are not the same, you're having to really modify, and you have a low quality life, you need a disc replacement. And those are the two extremes, and many people fall in the middle, but decision making is extremely important. And I bet your fragment extruded itself completely away out of the disc space. And even though it was sitting on a nerve and looked very impressive, it lost its hydration from the disc space, and your body just said, we'll take care of this large fragment, and your macrophages, cells came and just chopped it up. So now it just has this residual disc bulge. But if you notice, you also have no shock absorber. You have very little shock absorber left between L4 and L5. And there's this white signal on your vertebra that we call modic end plate changes. It has to do with bone that's under stress. So bone that's under stress because the shock absorber doesn't work right. So in flexion, when you bend forward, that's when the disc is loading, and that's where you probably feel it. So that's why, less weight, but more reps and a sustainable workout is a lot more important, as is recovery.
I agree. Let's get back to the discs that you were talking about and like not necessarily physical trauma, but emotional trauma in the spine.
Yeah, so that's been another one of my really interesting discoveries. From very early on, we knew that discogenic pain, even in training, we knew discogenic pain does something to the brain that's completely different than many other spinal problems like arthritis or even nerve pinches from spurs and things of that sort. Discogenic pain has a psychological component, And it brings up this hopelessness in many patients. And I always tell my research assistants that to look in the eye of the patient. If they look hopeless, that means they have discogenic back pain. And it's terrible, and it really wreaks havoc. I think the opiate crisis was, at least in my patients, was partially due to discogenic pain that just went untreated, and doctors got used to just giving out OxyContin pills instead of realizing the whole person approach, which is everything is part anatomy, which is the disc shock absorber, part physiology, which is hormones, muscle mass, cortisol levels, etc., and part psychology. And we've ignored this three-pronged approach to spinal care, which I advocate for and I really believe in, because many people come in, like if you came into my office, I'd be like, I think your psychology is pretty good. You have a good balance of everything. But if you said, I can't lift my children and it's really affecting me, my relationship is different from with my wife, and it's just not, my life is not the same anymore. I would also say, what are you doing for your mental health care? What are you doing? So there's things that, I love that you're a creature of habit, but there's things that we can habitually do to enhance our mentation. Exercise definitely helps. Nutritional supplements can help. Sleep quality definitely helps. And also pain control. So what do you do for your pain? What do you have a regimen? Is it all medications, or is it breath work, or is it cold plunge, or is it other means of treating pain? And also insight into psychological pain is very important, because people can be dealing with a psychosocial problem that brings out the spinal pain, which is very interesting. Like people can have recurrent sciatica after a divorce or after a real estate deal gone bad, which is like, it literally is the nerve is getting less of an energy budget because the brain is dealing with something completely different and just can't pay attention to that nerve or doesn't want to give it energy. And we're trying to research this stuff, because I think the body budgeting of that sort of axoplasmic flow, which is the flow of electricity through our nervous system, is something that we don't quite understand yet, but I see it every day.
Interrupting this episode to share with you that Creatures of Habit finally launched our protein bar. It's called the Daily Bar. It's made with 20 grams of plant-based protein, 3 grams of creatine. Yes, you heard that right. It also has 3 grams of creatine. It is incredibly tasty and clean as a whistle. All clean ingredients. Take this opportunity. Hop over to creaturesofhabit.com. That's creaturesofhabit.com with a K, and use code KOHPOD20 at checkout for 20% off your first order. Back to the pod. I mean, I feel like obviously there's a lot that we don't know about the brain. And I'm of the belief that like what is happening in modern day society is actually pushing us further and further from learning about the brain, because we're distracted all the time, right? Like one thing that I have implemented into my life that is I'm like incredibly passionate about for a number of reasons, but ultimately really to take me outside and in silence, and is hunting. And I'm a hunter. I mean, I love to hunt. It's hunting season right now. And for the last month, every single morning at 5 a.m., whether I harvest an animal or not, for me, it is just an unbelievable practice, because I get outside at 5 a.m., I'm by myself in the woods, in the dark, listening to the forest, listening to the birds and the squirrels and the sounds of the trees and the wind, and like I'm in the elements, and it's cold, and I'm feeling that, and I'm alive, and I'm like alert, and I'm focused, and I'm not on my phone. It's like I'm learning so much more about myself in those moments, because I'm there from 5 to 8:39 in the morning. And then if I don't have a crazy afternoon, I'll go back out from 4 to 6. And so we don't do that. We just don't do that.
Yeah. Just a time commitment. That's an incredible time commitment that you just.
And you know what? Another thing that I also have been really interested in sharing more about is like, now I've created a life where I'm able to say, hey, you know what? Between 5 o'clock in the morning and 8:30 in the month of November, I am doing my hunting thing. Like I'm doing it. I'm not taking meetings at 9 a.m. My wife knows that, like, hey, this is the 1 month out of the year that I get to do this thing that I'm so passionate about. But I just use it as an example that, like, I do believe that technology and modern communication is just the absolute downfall of humankind.
There's good evidence for it, actually. I mean, everything from the light on our phone to the fact that the first thing we do in the morning is to check messages or something like that. It's definitely has effects on our brain, on the balance of energy in our nervous system. And getting up with a routine of breathing, just settling in, and just coming into what we call that theta super creative mode of the brain, which happens very early in the morning. It's beautiful. Your ritual is absolutely beautiful. And I think one of the things that we need to do is just promote that more and more and more, so more people will realize the benefits of it. Because right now, the attention economy is robbing us from just absolutely robbing us
of our lives.
And it's going to become more and more prominent. You have young kids, I have young kids, so and it's easy to say, oh, we're just going to limit device time or something like that. But it's harder to actually say, let me capitalize on the early mornings and the late nights first. Because I think ritualistically, that's when the brain needs its own purging of information and calm transitions more than any other time. So I love that you brought that up. I do definitely believe the early mornings are very powerful.
Do you have a morning routine?
I do, but mine differ based on, I have two modes. I have clinic mode and I have surgery mode. So clinic mode is a little bit more relaxed. I get to sometimes take one of the kids to school. So it's a little bit more, dad time, and I'm going to the office dressed up to see patients. So it's different. Surgery mode is a lot more habituated, I would say, because training in neurosurgery is almost like a boot camp. So you have to shift gears and just go through that habit of making sure that everything's perfect, like a fighter pilot mentality. And so I love even teaching my children about it, that tomorrow's surgery, so I'm not going to see you in the morning. I'm gonna be out the door before you even wake up. And I wasn't a morning person, so that was the really interesting thing about neurosurgery. It shocked me into becoming a morning person. And now I love it. Now I can't go back. Now even on non-surgical days, I get up early, but I just kind of ease into the day. I do a meditation. Sometimes I do the meditation in an inversion table. So I got all kinds of...
Wow. You know what? I've interviewed probably 200 people on this podcast, and people have mentioned meditation, of course.
Right.
They've mentioned inversion table. No one has done an inverted meditation. I am going to do that, guys. Inverted meditation. I will follow up with you on that one.
Let me know how it goes.
I love that.
I've definitely enjoyed it.
That's so cool. So how long do you meditate for inverted?
Usually 10 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, nothing too crazy, but it definitely eases all of the networks and clears me up.
I just think that there's just something that we're not really clear on with the central nervous system. I think the central nervous system has a lot more to do with our overall health than we're talking about. I think
I'm so happy you bring that up.
I think the CNS is like, it's kind of almost, again, I have to bring it back to, and it's hunting for me because that's something that I love to do. So it doesn't have to be hunting for you or for anybody listening. But the thing that hunting does for me is it takes me outside in the quiet.
It's a ritual.
It's a ritual.
Yeah.
It takes me outside in the quiet,
Yep.
and I have a pretty awesome morning routine
Yep.
when it's not hunting season. But I just can't help but I feel so good, and I feel like my CNS is nice and regulated, and there's something there that I don't like. Someone's got to figure out what it is.
I mean, it's just managing the energy of the nervous system is something that every individual is doing anyway, all day long. People do it with caffeine, people do it with alcohol, people do it with weightlifting, et cetera. We're constantly energy managing. The problem is attention economy, doom scrolling, everything we need to get done, And we don't have any ritualistic habits to say, I have to do this to balance myself a little bit better, because I will be a better doctor, a better father, a better person, and happier and more connected. So we just have to continue to promote this. I'm really happy you brought up the CNS, this kind of like final frontier, this mysterious next step for humanity, because I really believe cognitive fitness needs to be just as important as physical fitness. And we're constantly like, yeah, mental health matters, and we have these like cliche taglines, but we're going to have an epidemic of crazy disorders that all have to do with some form of neurologic disorder. And the 4 bandits or horsemen that I'd like to mention is trauma. Again, trauma, our veterans, our athletes, the everyday micro trauma of life that affects us emotionally, physically, truck drivers going on long hauls, with their spine bouncing. All of these are physical trauma to the nervous system. Dementia, which is going to happen, it's happening at a very alarming rate, more and more and more. And we have mild cognitive dysfunction that we can notice. We also have some preventative measures, including weightlifting and strength training. Which is
what do you
important.
think that the spike in dementia is due to?
I mean, there's many theories on it. I don't think it's as simple as, we're on our devices all the time. I think it has to do with, first of all, we are aging longer. Second of all, I think there is an intestinal component, or microbiomes in the Western culture is not as healthy as it can be. And we're dealing with a lot of processed foods. We're dealing with a lot of poisons in our system.
A lot of environmental toxins.
Yeah, so I feel like the mind-gut connection will be where we need to go to unlock that, both for Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And there's also infectious or low-grade infection components that can happen. So the brain's constantly fighting off things. And the brain's a very protected place. It's constantly fighting off insults, environmental toxins, infections, cancer, et cetera. It's constantly getting rid of stuff. And I think as we learn more about things like the glymphatic system, which is like what I love to call the rinse cycle of the brain, which happens during sleep, we'll be able to learn how we potentiate that system to clear off toxins.
Can you unpack that a little bit? The glymphatic system?
Yeah. So in the past, I would say 10 to 15 years, the real scientists, which are in the lab doing all the hard work, have figured out that the intestines and the lymphatics, which is a way by which the body just clears its crud, has a direct component in the brain as well, where anatomically the spinal fluid is rinsing the neurons and trying to get all the toxins out and then give it to its other channels, which are basically the lymphatic channels.
So giving the toxins to the lymphatics to then ultimately...
to clear it out. And so this concept of spinal fluid that also, by the way, moves during breath work, it's really important to know that, like we're studying, we've been studying microgravity environments for space travel. And one of the things that doesn't happen in space is that spinal fluid flow, that natural rhythmic spinal fluid flow, because breathing in microgravity is different. So a lot of things we need to unpack, but the glymphatic system is very important for clearing out toxins and crud and metabolic waste from the brain and the central nervous system. And there's specialized cells with very large processes that are literally these, what I call like rinse pods for the supporting cells and the neurons.
When I had that initial spinal injury, I ended up going down a pathway of like witch doctors. Really. I was like, okay, yeah. I'll do anything. I just don't want to get surgery right now. If it ends up that I have to get surgery and because I can't live like this, but I'm going to give it everything I got.
So you come to California.
Well, there's enough wackadoos in here in New York, man. I went down to a guy named Master Ho, who's like out of a movie. This guy is like, name is Master Ho, and he works on like a lot of celebrities, but he's like this old Chinese guy that just is a Qigong master, and like, I got introduced to this really interesting chiropractic work called network chiropractic. Have you heard of this?
Not that one. I've heard many methods, but
So it's a very interesting style of chiropractic work. They barely touch you. They touch your tailbone a little bit. They will rub you behind the ear, and it's this very light sensation, energetic work. I walked into the office. Somebody told me that it cured their back. I was like, I'll do anything. So I walk into the office, and it's 8 beds, and this one practitioner just walking up and down, barely touching people, moving his hands over their head, he's putting salt on, and these people were wailing, moving their bodies, wailing. And I saw, he would work on somebody, and he would if this is their back, say this is their back, he'd pull this. And I guess they were so intuitive with this guy after a certain amount of time that they would move their glutes up. He would do like that, and they're face down. It was wild. I was not open to it though. I just wasn't. It was too. I'm an open dude. I will try anything at least twice. But this was just far out. This looked like I was walking into a.
Was it effective?
So, the first time he was like, listen. He walks up to me and he's like, look. He's like, you're looking at this and I know what's going through your mind. He's like, you think what you want, judge however you'd like. Lie down on the table, be open-minded, let me see if I can help you. You obviously look like someone that can use some help. So he put 2 pillows under my hips. I got on the table, nothing, man. Not a thing. No screaming, laughing, crying, yelling, moving my body, nothing. I felt nothing. And
you felt no difference?
No difference,
okay.
And I just did not have anywhere near the experience that these other people were having in there. So after it was done, I was like, I don't know. I was in my mind, I'm like, is he paying these people? What's going on here? He was like, look, dude, fair enough. You don't want to open yourself up to it. That's fine, no problem. He's like, but here's what I will tell you. Those people in there have an amazing experience in this setting. You look like you need something to shift. So I would just go home and think about it. If you can come back here tomorrow with a completely open mind and ready to receive whatever the body is showing you, meaning if for whatever reason you lie on the table and you actually feel like laughing or you feel like making a noise based on some sort of a touch that he's like, just go with it. And he's like, and if you can't, all good, no harm, man. This one's on me. Good luck. I went home. I was like, man, anyway, I show back up at the office the next day because I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna do this. I had an outer body experience, and made my back feel so much better. And what it showed to me was our cognition really has a very powerful impact on manifestation of pain, manifestation of relief in pain. So powerful. That was the first time that I experienced something that I was like, wow, we can really use our brains to impact sensation.
I think you should give all my future speeches for me because that's exactly what I've been trying to tell people in different ways. I use biohacking terms, or I used to use this term called corridors of susceptibility. So everyone's nervous system has a corridor through which we can biohack into it to do beneficial things for their nervous system. And you somehow, by going home and thinking through that process, whatever the thinking substrate in your cognitive apparatus did that night, opened up a pathway, a metabolic pathway that your brain thought this was resistant to it, and it thought it was impossible to get there. You opened that up by whatever your brain was able to open up to. And then that suggestive practice of, hey, this is going to move your anatomy around in a way that maybe some heat or some energetics are imparted onto the area of the trauma and something happens. I mean, it looks like magic. I've seen it. I've also experienced random orthopedic trauma and pain. I've had many surgeries. And I've gone to energy workers and acupuncturists and chiropractors to investigate because, I don't have an ego. I want my patients to get better no matter what, either with my surgeries or without, or as part of a sort of like a bag of tricks that we have. There are many other alternative paths. Being a Western-trained allopathic physician, I have a lot of respect for people that can make people better through their skills in many other ways. It's just, unfortunately, the bar of science for those practices has not been met at a level 1, class 1 evidence. And I don't know what it will take, but I think we should engage it. We should engage that community to say, hey, can we, put some scientific value, some p-values, some statistical knowledge behind this to see who will it work on, how beneficial will it be 75% effective, 99% effective, and actually be able to guide people through this instead of having to go through word of mouth or these things that look like snake oil operations or mill operations. So, and I think certain acupuncture is a great example. It didn't work on me as well as it could have, I think.
It's never worked on me.
It works on many people. And I'm always like, why did it not work on me? Like
me too.
I tried to be open. And I went to a master in Santa Monica who's excellent. I still send patients to Dr. Dow all the time, and it just didn't have the same effect on me. So I feel like that corridor of susceptibility in your nervous system where something is open metabolically shifts the pathways in a way that makes it easy to go from A to C. Your brain's going from A to B all day long, and then you somehow open this A to C pathway, which is by far my absolute favorite research subject because I want to help my patients do that. But the other two bandits or the horsemen that we didn't discuss other than dementia and trauma is pain, chronic pain, which is truly a brain problem, not a spine problem, but it happens in the spine a lot to many of my patients, including ones that have been forced into addiction because of the use of narcotics, or at least tolerance, but sometimes addiction. And that's a whole different, very interesting brain topic for physiology of the brain. Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, I've had a double board certified neurologist and addiction specialist on the podcast. I'm in recovery for the last 21 years. And so it's super interesting to me to understand the addiction thing, but it is, and he has done human clinical studies on addiction in the brain and has pretty much concluded that addiction is a brain disease. Like 100%. When I was saying that I was, I was addicted to drugs, he was like, no. You weren't addicted to drugs. You have addiction.
Right.
I was like, I never really thought about it that way.
Right.
And basically saying that like our lipid system fires at like a 10x in comparison to someone who does not have addiction.
Yeah, and we're just learning this. I mean, this is amazing because now with functional MRIs and much better clinical and imaging, we're able to look at those networks and be like, oh, this brain is wired differently. And it fires at this rate, and the A is talking to Z in this way, and we could infer it based on just psychological intelligence, but we could never put objective data behind it, and now we can. So I'm really happy that you got that as well. And the final of the four is depression. So societal depression is wreaking havoc on us, and there's a lot of good reason for it. There's wars and famine, and why can't we get it straight? And some of it is social media and isolation and doom scrolling and divisive disinformation that tries to constantly rev up our emotional systems by making us angry and making us kind of aroused about something that we feel wrong that's going on in society. And because, the goal of social media is engagement. They don't care how they get it. The goal is to just get you to be aroused and keep scrolling or click or, something. So, and it's not their fault. They're there to do their job, and they are very effective. And, the fact that you are also on that social media makes me believe that we can also turn that around to make the consumer more intelligent about what they're consuming, because nourishment to our brain is not just nutrition, is experience. And that's the most important, I would say, takeaway home from, watching people like you were able to somehow make that metabolic shift in their brain. Not every person dealing with addiction can. And I think realizing that nourishment doesn't just come from what you put in your body, including the chemicals that you're doing to numb some pain, but it comes from community, like you've talked about, and also certain habitual practices that literally change the nervous system, like breath work and things of that sort.
I'm curious, as someone who works on brains and sees a lot of brains, like actually, what are your thoughts on psychedelics and the rewiring of the neural pathways through the psychedelic experience? Like, what is your thoughts there?
So I'm actually very open if it's done through a research protocol first, number one. Number two is that the brain spa, the Neurovella brain spa, which I created for our patients with chronic pain, we actually offer psychedelic assisted therapy now through a company called Mystic Health. So if it's the correct set and setting, so it's not just
hanging out with your friends
at a rave where you go into a dark place and have a bad trip and
done that,
something terrible happens, and you hear those stories. But if in the correct set and setting, when you have support, you're inspired, you illuminate certain dark spaces in your psyche that you haven't been able to deal with, and it can unlock a lot of bad pathways into a very beneficial state. So I am optimistic, cautiously optimistic. I follow Robin Carhart-Harris all the time. He's brilliant in the way he's rolled it out. And we've had a great resurgence of bona fide scientific centers studying psychedelics in a way never done before. We lost the opportunity in the late 60s because of the party atmosphere. And I think, for good reason, the governmental bodies and many doctors were like, oh no, we don't want to go there. That's terrible. But now it started with ketamine in very low doses for chronic pain, and other substances like psilocybin showing some promise, which is.
So what do you offer at the spa?
Right now, just ketamine.
Okay.
Because that's the only one that's federally not regulated at a research level. But we are applying to be a research center. We also have a research institute called INI, which I formed after my father got Alzheimer's. So I had a personal reason to be like, okay, what else can we do to the brain to bring wellness into the community? And it was, what can we do electrically, what can we do chemically, and what can we do through experience? And that's the three things we're working on at the Brain Spa. So ketamine is a chemical induction of certain brain states that can help unlock old trauma. I wouldn't say it treats dementia or anything like that, so I don't want to make that relationship at all. But for depression, chronic pain, and certain forms of trauma, we're also investigating EMDR, and there's some great practitioners who offer that, and I've talked to them and I collaborate with them. Basically, I'm developing a best-in-class. So a person like you shows up, you don't have to go look for that, snake oil doctor. Be like, no, we got someone for you, and they're they're under a scientific umbrella which we're investigating. So it doesn't have to be that you have nowhere to go, and it doesn't have to be surgery or else you're out. So it can be like, yes, we can take care of you, not just surgically, but through some other means. And many times I feel like, somebody comes in with a disc herniation, they're anxious to get surgery. And they're not like you, they're the other way. They're like, I'm going tonight. And I'm like, you don't have nerve damage. You don't have, you have the kind of disc that could get better with a cortisone injection. Let's try a cortisone injection. I'm here for you. I'll operate on you next week if your pain doesn't go away. And many people's pain gets managed in a way that they can go back to physiotherapy, core strengthening, et cetera, and they might need a disc replacement in their life. And I try to be a useful partner for them to say, yeah, you like you're a perfect example. You're absolutely a perfect example. I can look at your MRI and be like,
perfect
okay,
candidate.
Yeah, we need to replace that disc at some point because your metabolism may not be able to sustain this, truncal load and the loads that you want to put it through. I'm a surfer, and surfing is a spinal sport. And many times after, you go on a surf trip, it's usually 3-4 hours of surfing, and then you try to do it again that afternoon to try to get as many sessions as possible. Your spine it feels like it is in severe spasms for a week straight. And many of my colleagues, we make fun now on the way back from a surf trip. We're like, well, we got to line up our injections, our cortisone injections and our inversion table and ice. And so after a certain age, you're a dad as well. You to be super dad, you have to have recovery and the mindset of recovery at all times to stay in the game.
Okay, so before we end, I've got 3 things that we have to accomplish. A, I need to understand your recovery habits and what you suggest, what you do personally, and why. And I would love to hear a little science behind that.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of people that come on the podcast that are not certified, scientists,
Indeed.
doctors, surgeons. Second, artificial discs. I've heard that they are great in the cervical spine and not necessarily as potent in the lumbar or thoracic. So I want to understand that. And then third is, what was the third one that I really wanted to ask? Well, let's start with.
I think we should go in the second hour. This is too exciting.
I mean, I could talk to you for days, dude.
Me too.
I mean, I could.
You're totally invited to California, by the way.
I will take you up on that. I'll be in California in March, so
Good.
Hopefully not for
You're
surgery.
on. Hopefully sooner, but yeah.
So let's just talk about your recovery habits as a doctor, surgeon that works with people in athletics across the gamut. Like, what have you seen to be actually effective?
Yeah, I mean, I like to consider all my patients athletes and no matter what their activity of life is. And I deal with patients across older age groups all the way to, I have a 14-year-old patient. But I think the most important thing is every day of our life can be looked at as either a training day or a recovery day. Every day. And your initial morning mindset, if you have the option of choosing one, usually tells you what kind of day it is. I mean, I wear an Oura ring. I try to put some physiologic markers behind it. But the bottom line is every day is either a training day or a recovery day. And as we get older, recovery becomes so much more important than training. Training is very important when you're 20. At 50 or 60, recovery is more important than training. And your training shouldn't cause more injury. Your training should be, I would say, if you're injured, go to 25% of your maximum in whatever your strength training habit is. But basically where I start is gentle walking, gentle breath work, and gentle spinal movements. We have a group of exercises that we adopted actually with the help of a chiropractic colleague that we call the foundation exercises. They're actually online as well. And we offer that to patients, and it's not complicated. It's certain plank poses, chair poses, squatting type, and those are great for spinal health on a recovery day. And if even those are too intense, then you turn one step down. You can do massage, gentle physiotherapy, ice, heat, ultrasound, electronic stimulation, like when your back was completely out. But no movement creates issues. So we want movement.
Ice baths or cold exposure in general and back pain.
Yep.
What are your thoughts?
Acute injury, excellent. Chronic injury needs to add heat as well. And sauna and a red light sauna is very, very beneficial as well.
For red light, what is an actual protocol that you would, that you've seen to be successful?
Yeah,
Is the science legit on red light?
There's definitely some science behind it. It's about how long does it treat an acute problem versus a chronic problem hasn't been sorted out. But an acute setting, and the bottom line is if you overdo all this, your life just becomes you're going from spa to therapist to spa. So you have to be practical. So I always say, even if you get in once a week, so I'm not very prescriptive. you want people's life to go on, but you want them to have a joystick of that life. So when they get up in the morning, they have tools in their armamentarium to ease their day, to ease what they actually need to get done. Because certain people don't have the luxury of saying, oh, this is definitely a recovery day, I don't want to work. So you have to use tools like bracing, ice, heat, stand-up desks, tools that make even the office work environment. You know, one of my favorite things to talk about is tech neck or text to neck. Both of them occur to my patients all the time. I saw my 88-year-old mom the other day going like this for like quite a long time. And I was like, she's going to be sore in like 30 minutes just from that. So we are doomed because technology is making our spines have to assume certain positions for a long time. And that is abnormal for the spine. The spine likes to move. The spine likes to be in nature and hunt at 5 a.m. And that's what's healthy for it. Movement, walking, gentle spinal motion, definitely ice for acute injury, heat for chronic injury, but I think ice at least once a week to just bring the inflammatory markers down in your
cold plunge once a week is great.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on cold plunging multiple times a week?
Yeah, I mean, some people do it all the time. I don't have I'm not prescriptive about it. I don't think we have enough science to be like, oh, you have to do it for 10 minutes. And that science is lacking, is not there. But I've seen the effects. I have a very inflamed ankle from an old surfing injury. When I do a cold plunge, it doesn't hurt for the rest of that day. It just feels like I'm a kid again. It just doesn't hurt.
One other thing that I just want to mention that I think is really interesting, and you know, like you said, like the Western medicine, you're Western medicine trained, you know, for the most part, that is very, very science focused, if not all science focused, and anything outside of the parameter of that is always going to be questionable, right? In the eyes of the Western sort of like through the Western lens. I don't know how much time you've spent in Asia. I haven't spent an enormous amount of time in Asia, but I've been to Asia multiple times. And in the morning, when you are in Hong Kong or in Japan or in Thailand, and you're walking through, you know, a city or wherever, you will see massive groups of older people doing Qigong. Massive. In every region that I've been to in Asia. My favorite thing to do when I travel is I wake up and I go for a run to explore the city before either my wife and I, or I go for like a 5-6 mile run, and I'm looking, it's the greatest way to see a city, or wherever you are. And it's just dawned on me that all of these Asian communities move their arms, and what I'm learning through a friend of mine now, who's really sort of taken to Qigong, is that it's just the most incredible way to get the lymphatic system going, right? It keeps the lymphatic system active, and it brings that fluid in and out. And so, like, is that something like the
100%? Okay. I do. So on clinic days, I try to do a mini yoga session with my kids. You know, they're learning. I'm trying to get them into like the practice. So gentle yoga moves. I think Tai Chi is so profoundly effective. And yeah, there's a lot of wisdom in those cultures. I remember going to a gym in Seoul, Korea, and they had all the usual equipment, and then they had a meditation room inside the gym. And it's not a modern. It was an older gym, and there were a lot of older guys just relaxing. And it was a huge real estate, and I was like, wow, they really dedicate. They're really into that recovery mindset. They realize that the everyday grind requires that. So yeah, I love that you saw that. You're right. I didn't think specifically about Tai Chi, and also yoga. I mean, I feel like competitive yoga can injure you. Gentle yoga is the best thing that ever happened to my patients. And so I highly recommend it. But I want my patients to realize that, I want everyone to realize that respecting your physiology doesn't mean get after it every day. It means get after it when the right energetics exist, and help recover when they don't exist. And you should have many tools in your recovery box. I feel like sleep is really underrated, and the quality of sleep. And it's not just about, I got to get 7 hours and I'm going to take as many magnesium tablets as possible to get that 7 hours. Really has to do with the sleep efficiency, which is also scientifically, very hot topic right now.
When you go to bed, when you wake up.
Yeah, but how your
Fasted,
how your brain recovers. And I feel like that's the only time where I feel like fasting is a reasonable idea. And I know you have some opinions about that, is try to sleep when your gut is not dealing with a bunch of food. Mm-hmm. So it has a light load on it.
Meaning give yourself 2 to 3 hours before bed without food.
That's the only essential takeaway piece from that. So your gut is not distracting or stealing energy from your brain's ability to do the glymphatic work that it needs to do.
I think so. You probably are alluding to the recent post I did on intermittent fasting, maybe. My thought on intermittent fasting is I actually think I totally am an advocate for giving your body 2 to 3 hours of no food prior to bed. It's the not eating till 12 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon that I think could very well be effective for lots and lots of people. But I think the mental stress that it puts on people, should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? How long should I do it? When should I eat? What should I eat in the window? When should I stop eating? When should I start eating? Should I intermittent fast today? I don't know if I want to eat right now. It's just too much. And
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
And Dean Wilson, if you're watching, he's one of our physician assistants in California, who's a really fit guy and really gets after it. And we used to make fun of how hungry he was in the operating room, because he was just he was just visibly hungry, starving.
Because he fasted.
Because he was trying to make it to 1 p.m. or something like that. So if you're watching, this is for you.
I really do want to talk about the disc though in the last few minutes that we have, because
of course,
that's your specialty, and I think I would love to learn more about it, because obviously, knowing what I have going on in my lumbar, I'm sure that there's going to be a time, hopefully not anytime soon, where if the disc replacement is there and ready, it would just make sense for me.
So lumbar disc replacement had a false start in early 2000s due to this disc that has been taken off market called the Charité. Because of that, the initial scientific studies of lumbar disc replacement just weren't that good. Cervical disc replacement, totally success story. It works so well. It's my absolute favorite thing to do for my patients. And we've mastered the technique so much that the patients are like, well, why did you scare me from the surgery? And I tell them, because it's neurosurgery and we're near your spinal cord and your carotid artery and your esophagus and a lot of important stuff. We've just gotten so good at it that they feel like they just had a minor tonsillectomy. They just feel really good. The lumbar devices that are approved now have undergone rigorous testing. I'm talking about 17 to 20 million cycles of fatigue, more than a human lifetime. And the ProDisc L, which is the only disc that's approved at 2 levels now by the FDA, is the one that we use routinely, and it works. It doesn't have the problems that Charité had in the early 2000s, where lumbar artificial disc got a really bad rap, and it became sort of only a New York and LA thing, and the rest of the country quit doing it. We have definitely seen amazing results now with lumbar disc replacements for appropriate candidates. Patient selection is the most important thing. And sometimes hybrid constructs. Sometimes we'll fuse the worst level and below and put a lumbar disc above. What happens with fusion after fusion after fusion is it rigidifies the spine so much that the next level that's still trying to do all the appropriate motion for you to check your blind spot and do your athletic work, that's the problem with the fusion, that it begets more and more interventions and operations. So that's what we've observed. In certain patients, this fusion concept just dominoes. And there's, the latest studies show that natural history of the patient due to arthritis and genetics can also do that, where you just continue to get disc degeneration above. So yeah, me and my partner at our surgery center routinely do 1, 2, all the way up to 4 disc replacements, which is not usually covered by insurance, by the way. They only cover up to 2. of the lumbar spine with excellent results. So I have to say it's...
And what is the recovery process on a disc replacement in the lumbar? Like how long are you back to?
Great that you brought that up. So initially after surgery, for about 2 weeks, it's about wound healing. It's about taking care of your incision. So if you go to the gym too early because you feel good and you tear a suture, that's not great.
Yeah.
So we sort of put everyone on a leash for anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks and then individualize their return to activity with the goal being 100% at 3 months.
Wow.
And that's a conservative goal. Some people get after it even sooner.
Wow.
But if you're an athlete, you should be at 100% in 3 months. Now, what I like to do is to say, okay, if you're a downhill skier or water skier or wakeboarder, I want that season to be a relaxing season for you. Don't get competitive. Just stay in the most relaxed mode possible. It's hard for skiers because they want to go on the craziest slope possible and snowboarders. So I feel like the take-home message is lumbar disc replacement works in the correct patient, and recovery is about individualizing how quickly you return to activity, at what percentage, and what is your baseline activity. And then I usually work with an expert physical therapist, and we literally individualize your recovery to say, this is what your core is like, this is what your back muscles are like, what your gluteus are doing, your buttock muscles are very important in lumbar recovery, and what's your activity tolerance? How long were you able to walk or sustain a high-level cardiovascular load before the surgery? So I would say it's one of my favorite things to do is to replace discs because people are.
Are there people like is it like?
Well, yeah, you immediately feel like your foundation, you're now sitting on a better foundation.
Oh my God, you're making me want to get it, man.
I mean, your entire body feel like, because it's slowly, losing 5 degrees and 5 degrees and 5 degrees, and it's losing. So because you're born with the lumbar disc being a little wedge shaped, so you have this natural parentheses like curvature we call lordosis. So one of the most important things it does, it actually gives your lordosis back. So when you're sitting, the arc of your lower back is normal.
Wow. Well, I'm so happy that I now know the best surgeon in the world to do it. I mean, I just am. I'm going to say that selfishly. The last question, and then we're going to have a protein bar, and I know that you created a really cool promotion for our audience for the holidays, which I'm excited for you to share. And I also want to talk about Axon as well, but Piriformis disease, right?
Yes.
So there are some people that say this is totally fabricated, does not exist, impossible, that your sciatic nerve is actually being pinched by your piriformis.
Right.
And maybe, you're probably way more articulate on what the piriformis is than I am. But I just want to know what is the actual facts around piriformis and sciatica?
I love that you brought that up because it's truly a controversial topic in spine. And, most practitioners say, that syndrome doesn't exist, et cetera. But we have a thing called atypical sciatica. And my first job as a doctor, as what I call the Sherlock Holmes of spine, is to figure out what is causing that pain. So that's literally the most important thing I do, is to figure out, is it the sacroiliac joint? Is it piriformis? Is it a typical sciatica from the lumbar spine? Is there a tiny disc that just bulged a little bit more? So I feel like piriformis syndrome has to do with the chemical or inflammatory milieu around the sciatic nerve. I'll say that in English. What is going on around your sciatic nerve? Is it inflamed for a reason? It doesn't have to do with piriformis, pinching it. Like we're so used to, I have some of these discussions with our French and international colleagues because they're like, Americans are so used to saying nerve pinching. But there's a lot of dynamic physiology that goes around in nerve pain that doesn't have to do with actual mechanical compression. But we always look for mechanical compression because that's what surgeons...
Visually, that is kind of like what you think, right?
Yeah, so I don't think the piriformis physically pinches it, but I do think there's something about inflammation or in and around the sciatic nerve that has to do with piriformis, that has nothing to do with a lumbar disc or SI joint. But both those other conditions have to be ruled out first. And sometimes clinical problems like a lumbar disc declare themselves over time, and MRI is very revealing. And sometimes the initial answer is, why don't we do a trigger point to the piriformis area? And that feels amazing for many patients, just a trigger point injection. So yes, there is such a thing as a piriformis related pain. I don't think sectioning the muscle has been as effective as some of my colleagues that only deal with piriformis syndrome do that.
They'll separate the muscle?
They'll ligate it or cut some of the fibers, et cetera. I just don't think that's the sort of way to get around the inflammatory environment. I think we have to get to the root cause of inflammation, and it happens a lot more often than people think. And I think reconditioning the glutes through appropriate weight training that's not too much, and recovery at the same time, because as we get older, we also lose muscle mass. So how do you hold on to muscle mass? I think creatine being an important part of that.
What do you want to try, cookie dough or the chocolate peanut butter?
I'm so torn. Just
go chocolate peanut butter, man.
Okay, yeah. Yep.
So this is the daily bar. We just launched it. 3 grams of creatine, 20 grams of plant-based protein, all clean ingredients, substantial. This is like a snack that is going to actually like make you feel satiated between meals.
I'm so excited. Okay.
What do you think?
It's really good. It's really good.
Like if you had to compare it to something.
Oh, I'm a huge enthusiast of these types of bars. So this is what I do in the morning before surgery with some supplements, with some vitamins, sometimes a banana, and that's my morning jam before getting into action.
I think what I love the most about the bar is that it reminds me of like a Reese's peanut butter cup for sure. Mm-hmm. And that's like taste-wise, texturally and taste. Thank you.
No, it's better. It's got 20 grams of protein.
20 grams of protein, 3 grams of creatine. But also it's like not a bar that you just want to like scarf down right away. It's a bar that you like can like take your time with and take a few bites of and like put it back down and take a few bites because it's actually satiating. It's nut butter based. Both bars are nut butter based. Sorry for the people that have nut allergies.
I see.
It's a nut butter based bar, so the chocolate peanut butter is obviously peanut butter, and the cookie dough is a blend of cashew and sunflower butter.
And plant-based.
And plant-based. No seed oils, non-GMO, gluten-free, dairy-free.
Incredible.
We're really excited about it. Thank you, man.
I will be a super user of your bars.
Thank you.
As well as your meals. You have the meal one.
Meal one is our hero SKU. It is a high protein overnight oatmeal. I've been eating this for basically 20 years now.
And the reason it's overnight is because it marinates?
Yeah, so there's a number of reasons why overnight is in my opinion a little bit better. One, the oats absorb the full flavor profile of what we're trying to create. Some people struggle with digestibility in oats. So when you soak oats, there is zero digestion issues, right?
Okay.
They just become soft and very, very easy to metabolize. And like it's almost like sprouting, right? Like when you sprout something, it actually offers more nutrients. And so in the soaking overnight process, you're kind of sprouting the ingredients in there. They're absorbing all the flavors. The full flavor profile is really executed well in the overnight process. And so that's why we did it overnight.
Incredible.
Thanks, man.
I can't wait to try that either.
You're a legend. I'm like so stoked that we met. And so many people struggle with back issues and spine issues.
No, it's truly a privilege to be of service. And I do want to offer anyone who's watching that wants to have their MRI checked or even do a quick consultation with me, we're going to give you a discount code called Kreatures with a K.
Let's go.
After Creatures of Habit. So you're welcome to use that discount code and make an official consultation with us at 800-899-0101, a neurosurgical spine group in Santa Monica, California. and you get your first free consult yourself.
All right, let's go. I'm going to take you up on that for sure.
Yeah, no, I'm beyond impressed and honored to see the entire community that you've been able to create out of basically creating healthy habits, beating addiction, creating like a family around this health culture. And also, habits are an essential part of brain function. It's just what the brain does. And for whatever reason, we are prone to bad habits a lot. And it's fascinating to me how you have to kind of go a little uphill to get a good habit in there. So tell me a little bit about, we talk to we have Marines and NFL athletes and, veterans as patients, and, they have this funny saying in military called embrace the suck, where, no matter how hard the day is, you just kind of go for it. What triggered the initial, oh no, I'm going to turn this Titanic away from the iceberg in you to do that?
I say it all the time. Habits will make you or break you, right? And my habits nearly killed me. I flatlined from addiction, from heroin. And I was introduced to a guy who basically told me that your habits don't have to destroy your life. As a matter of fact, the habits that you are very capable of implementing on a daily basis, simply small ones, will actually help you build a life way beyond anything you could have ever imagined. And I didn't believe the guy when he said it to me, but after following his footsteps for, 60, 90 days, my whole entire experience of life was different. And that's when I realized that we all have the ability to commit to both good and bad things. My message, once I saw that, I didn't think that there was a way to get sober. I just didn't think that that was possible for me because of how committed I was to the drugs and the alcohol. Once I saw that I was able to absolutely 100% parlay that ability to commit into a positive thing, I was like, oh my gosh, I could really help people. I could actually truly put fitness in front of somebody, put nutrition in front of somebody, and give them someone to look up to, because that's ultimately what it was for me. I found somebody to look up to that I wanted to impress, that I wanted to get a pat on the back from. He introduced me to fitness and putting positive, healthy things into my body, whereas I was, doing the exact opposite. Anti-fitness, anti-positive, healthy things into my body. He put those two things in front of me, and I watched that I was as obsessed with that as I was with alcohol and drugs. And look, it's not. I
love the way you put that. I think one of your statements was, I thought my life was going to be church basements, and somehow that something's inspired you to turn that into this incredibly positive thing and have the zest and the enthusiasm to want to do it more and more and more. I think that's the key.
The other piece is that we all can do it. That's the craziest part of it all. Every single human, barring some physical ailments or some mental ailments potentially in people, every single human on the planet has the decision has the ability to make a choice, right? And we're delivered, I don't know, thousands of choices to make every single day. What am I going to say? What step am I going to take? What am I going to wear? Am I going to hit the snooze button? Am I going to eat this? Am I going to eat that? Am I going to say this to her? Am I going to judge that person? Am I going to allow that person thoughts of me to make me feel bad? We have choices all freaking day long. And, the more wins you stack in the morning, specifically for me, the more wins I stack in the morning, the better chance I have to make the right decision over the wrong one throughout the rest of the day. And that's just the simplicity of it. And I'm not unique, I when people DM me or ask me hey, how do I start? You know what the fuck to do. You know exactly how to start. You know exactly what to do. You want to get in shape? You know what to do. You want to stop eating sugar? You know what to do. You want to lift 400 pounds? You know what to do. You want to start a business? You may not know exactly what to do, but you can't be afraid to take a risk, because if you're afraid to take a risk, you're gonna never be able to take a swing. And there's just like a lot of us know what to do, and the hardest part is
I think there's a first step sometimes can be a little intimidating, but it's the most important.
It's the most important, right? Like
to me, I think it's the mindset that I think I commend you for that. It's like how do we train mindset? And there's a lot of people online talking about that. And I think training mindset, training how to think is the single most important thing that we can do about our ever so growing societal problems, is training people how to think, because we're going to have to deal with AI and disinformation. And this could be another 2-hour podcast that we should have, because I want to talk about manifestation and paradox of choice. But
do you have a podcast?
No, we're starting one with our researchers, because we have so many of conversations like this. So we're going to do what we call I&I Studios, which is Institute of Neuroinnovation. You'll be invited to the events. It's a very exciting group of young and seasoned scientists that have conversations like this.
Well, I think, it would be fun to have you recurring on the show, because obviously we have great conversation, and I'll be in LA in March, so we should definitely book a studio and have a round 2 for sure.
Sweet.
It was wonderful having you on the show, man. For everybody out there, how can they follow along in your journey? Where can they find you?
Yeah, by the way, I hope you enjoy the
Axon.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about this real quick. So tell me about Axon.
So me and 2 other co-founders came up with 9 ingredients to basically give the brain a early morning rinse cycle with clarity, focus, and memory. So it's got adaptogens and nootropics. It's got lion's mane, bacopa, which is an Ayurvedic herb, as well as B6, B12, acetylcholine, phosphatidylserine. These are all like structural parts of an axon. They support synaptic transmission. And, I know supplements in general, there's some controversy around them. And, creatine is a perfect example. Like supplementation with creatine took a long time to get this much evidence behind it. Mm. We believe that lion's mane and bacopa and a few other ingredients in this formulation are the same. They're going to be the next generation of, oh yes, of course we need that in the system to enhance nerve function. So that body budget that I'm talking about, the brain and spine, need certain substrates to maintain optimal function in some people. And if you have normal levels of everything and your intestines work perfectly, then you don't need supplements. But we know, like your bar is a great nutritional, step to do in the morning. It's got some creatine, it supports muscles. So Axon is sort of like our way of saying, how do we support nerve function with 3 tablets early in the morning before noon?
Sweet. Well, I can't wait
I
to
hope you
try
like it.
Yeah, I will give you a full recap after doing it for a week. Thank you for these.
Of course.
Doc, you're awesome.
Dude, it's such an honor. It's truly it's beyond stoked to be part of your community. And I think, what you've done is like what I like to study scientifically is what you've done naturally. Like I'm like, how did you do it? Because I want to empower my patients that are suffering with addiction and opiates and back pain and just can't get out of the draining the circle, which I always say we have to interrupt the circle somehow. Sometimes early surgery is the best thing for them, because it gives them like an event 0 that we didn't even get to discuss. Like it gives them like this jump start because they're under anesthetic and they come out with some part of their body structure fixed, but they have surgical pain. It's a whole different conversation.
Well, we'll have it, because
that one's even more fascinating about how do we give people an event 0. You had your event 0 when you met your sponsor, and when you met the craniosacral guy, which sounds really cool, by the way.
Obviously, you guys are probably sitting at the edge of your seat just like I am. This was such an incredibly, just like a wisdom drop, just like an enormous amount of content that is going to give you something to think about. If you struggle with back pain, I am a candidate for Amir. Like I am. I mean, God willing, I have a bunch of years left in me where I don't have to necessarily get back surgery. But like, I think any doctor surgeon that would look at my MRI would be like, oh yeah, like, oh, you're crippled in pain. Like, it makes total sense based on your MRI. But luckily, I take good care of myself, and But I know a lot of you listening, and just people in general, just struggle and battle chronic back pain. And so, we have talked a lot about that here. It's also really amazing for me to learn that lumbar artificial disc surgery is actually like in a great place and effective and works really well. Anyway, this one really, like, I was just so engaged, so interested. I can't wait to do more, quite frankly. And, if this podcast really moved you, do me a favor. The only rent I ask you to pay is to share this thing. Share it. Share it with a friend. Share it with someone in your family. Share it with your social media audience. Just share the podcast. That helps us grow. Giving us a 5-star rating and a review obviously helps us grow. It would mean a lot if you did that. That is really me twisting your arm there. But, I just appreciate you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you guys for tuning in, subscribing to the podcast, and being a part of this community. It means the world to me, and you know the deal. Until the next one, y'all. Peace.